Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Springfield at the Lincoln Land Community College campus and the Crayer Ag Center. You know, Lincoln Land had a successful ag program for many years, but this brand new 20,000 square foot, $7.5 million addition really changes things. Bill Harmon, this has got to be exciting. I mean, nearly 20,000 square feet of new space and all kinds of new equipment for the kids to learn, really hands-on, right?
Oh, definitely.
This is what you're going to do. If you're going to be a farmer, if you're going to be in agriculture, this is what you're going to learn to do.
Yeah,
right?
and in any aspect of the industry, whether you're going to be in supply, sales, service, we're giving them the skills they need to go out and be successful on the job. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah. This is, of course, this is a sort of a meeting or an entrance hall right here. It gives you the spacious feeling that you want, and it sort of brings the outdoors in.
Right.
But the kids aren't going to be spending a lot of time here. They're going to be spending a lot of time over here.
Right. Yep. After they make it through the entrance, some conference rooms for them to use. But then this is probably the thing that's going to catch everybody's attention first off, as soon as they come into the building, the simulator lab. The purpose of this room is to give us one place to put all of the simulators that we use in various classes. And simulators designed to let students practice, get skills developed in a safe, low-cost environment. For example, the combine simulator or the sprayer simulators for students in our ag business or precision ag programs.
The one on the right, this is the combine.
This is the combine simulator. So this was sold by Deere, and so this is the seat and the control mechanism out of a S-Series John Deere combine. And so there's about 10 lessons that the students work their way through. They'll go through the lessons, learn how the machine operates, learn how to harvest, learn about why speed matters. It throws problems at them, so they have to troubleshoot. And then at the end, we can take them out next fall, and we'll lease a combine from a local Deere dealer and put them in the real machine. And hopefully the learning curve will be much quicker. And to be fair, most of our students aren't going to farm. A pretty small percentage aren't, but they're all going to learn to use technology. And so this is a way they can learn it. They can, how do I adapt? How do I solve a problem? And so that they'll adapt those skills and take them to their next job. The sprayer simulator, over here on this side, and this one we purchased in a partnership with Growmark. This is about as realistic as you can get. When the students are in this machine, they feel the bumps, the booms. They have to know their boom width, and so they don't run it into a pole or bury it into the ground. It teaches them basics of how to drive on the road, which is important, so that we have to be good neighbors with people in the countryside. And so how do I gauge how far over I can get? It also has VR goggles, which the students like. I can't do the VR goggles. I get a little nauseous, but it puts you in the machine. The sounds are there, and it's a really good teaching tool in that we can take them from this. We're going to be leasing a new sprayer this fall. And so after they run through these lessons, this has about half a dozen lessons, put them in that actual machine here on campus or on one of the college fields. And so then they're going to have that skill set.
Would this be a prerequisite for that? You wouldn't just take a kid and put him on the sprayer?
Right, because that new sprayer, it's the lease on that's going to be $40,000 a year.
You don't want them wrecking that.
I don't want them to damage that. And so this way, if they have a wreck, and you can wreck this machine, if you take a turn too fast, it'll roll you over in the virtual world.
Oh, man.
And you get the big red and so that way they hit the reset button and they learn. So it's safer for them, it's lower cost for the college, and it gets them ready, like I said, to go on the job. That's what we're here for.
Fascinating. What's going on over here?
These ladies are working, this is a virtual welder. And so in a mechanics class, we teach welding in some of our classes. And especially if I have students who've never welded before and are maybe a little nervous or tentative about it, they can try it here in the virtual environment, and they'll learn the motions without the smoke, without the heat, without the sparks. And then we're going to transfer them to an actual welder out in the workforce center on campus here. And then they'll be better off and better prepared for it.
There's a lot of welding that goes on the farm because farmers repair and build everything themselves, don't they?
Right.
As much as they can.
Right, and a lot of our students, if they go into a job working for a local custom applicator or a machinery dealership, the ability to weld might be the difference to help them get a job.
I'll be darned. Okay. So really, it's about jobs, isn't it?
It is. That's what it all comes down to. Production agriculture only makes up about 2% of America's population, but when you look at all those related jobs, it's up to 20%. And that's who we're really training students for, is for those other 18%, so that they can go out and work with technology. Taylor here is operating a drone. This is a drone simulator. Now we have actual drones here on the other side of this lab, but before I put a student flying a $4,000 or $5,000, one of these high-tech ones, I want them to get used to the concept of yaw and pitch and flying it and landing it safely. This is what the technology can do for us.
I'll bet these young people are already pretty adept at this kind of thing, much more than we would have been, right?
Yeah, the concept, this generation, they're used to video games. I put a lot of quarters in machines back in the day, but they're more adept to it, and it's a way they learn. And so we're trying to reach them on their level so that it'll be a faster process, and like I said, just to get a better end result.
Now, they're having fun over here, but I'm not sure what they're doing.
This is an augmented reality sandbox, and so this is a tool we use in a soils class, for example. So what it is, the laptop there has a little Kinect camera like off of a video game system, at home system, and it's reading the topography of that sand that you see inside there. And then the computer shoots an image onto it, an overlay that shows the different topo lines, so the height, and also it shows the water. So if we're looking at talking in class about, okay, what's the terrace do, which is a soil conservation structure across a slope, well, we can build that, and then you hold your hand above it, and we'll make it rain. And then we can see, okay, where did the water go?
Oh, okay, so it's about drainage, and it's about, like you say, terracing and erosion.
Erosion, definitely. And so instead of it simply we're talking about it, or maybe even showing them a video, now they're doing it themselves. And so it reinforces learning, it sinks in, and it lasts longer.
That's exciting. Okay, Ryan, what are we doing? Cutting beans?
We are cutting beans right now.
Okay, this is called a
combine simulator.
Combine simulator.
Yep.
Okay. I don't hear anything. Do you hear anything?
No, I don't hear anything right now.
You wouldn't hear anything inside anyway, would you?
Well, you'd hear a little bit, but it's more of just getting a feel of the controls, not exactly the sounds.
Have you ever operated a combine?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I kind of thought it sounded like you knew what you were doing.
Oh yeah.
Is this pretty realistic?
It is pretty realistic. Like you said, the sounds, that's about the only thing different from it.
Now, you would have GPS on a new combine, right? And this one does.
Probably.
Can you set it for us, or how would you do that?
So I already set my A, which is the beginning point at the other side of the field, and I'm getting ready to set my B once I get to the other side. And that will give us a straight line throughout the whole field. So once we get to the end here.
So you are steering it. It's not doing it on its own. You're
right
steering
now
it.
I am steering it, yes. But once I set the B and then push the auto steer button, it will be steering itself.
And what about the speed? How do you know how fast to go?
So right in here is our speed, and this is part of it that's not very realistic, because I can combine 9 to 10 mile an hour and still not do anything. Normally, you'd be combining about 4.5, 5 mile an hour, but in this unit, you can combine about as fast as you want.
Is there a downside to going too fast? Do you miss some of the beans if you go too fast?
In real life, you'd miss a lot of the beans and you'd be throwing them over, but in this simulation, it doesn't really make a difference. So now we are close enough to the edge of the field. I'm just gonna go ahead and set my B, accept, and it's gonna ask me if I want to accept the track, and I do. So we're gonna push this button, turn our steering on, and once I make another pass.
Oh, that's remarkable. Look at the visuals. Wow.
So once I make another pass and set this
and there's
head down,
there's the cut that we just made and we just went through. Okay, neat.
Push that button, and now it's steering itself.
Okay, what happens when your combine gets full of beans? Does it tell you when to stop and unload?
Yeah, it will. It'll tell you. We're at 70% right now. 70% full.
Wow.
And these buttons, it'll tell you everything about it. You can have your yield information, how much see we're getting 30 bushel the acre and 20% moisture, which is not not very good, but it'll tell you every single thing that's going on with the machine.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Start her up there for us, Jacob. This is the sprayer, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever operated a sprayer before?
No, not in real life.
Yeah. Just this one, huh?
Yep.
Have you been doing it a while? So
Yeah,
you
just
feel
a
like
few
pretty
days.
competent? Oh, a few days, huh? You know, those sprayers, those things that are real high off the ground, aren't they?
Yeah, these are a little bit harder to operate sometimes.
Yeah. Hard to steer?
They can be if you're not paying attention to where your booms are at.
I kind of like it because you can look out the window and see exactly where your spray is going, can't you?
Yeah.
And do you use that, or do you use some kind of a monitor up here?
You can use either one if you wanted to.
Now, do you feel anything? Or do you feel the machine shaking or vibrating in any way?
Yeah, sometimes.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Depends on who's driving.
Yeah. Now, do you regulate the amount that you're spraying, or does it do that automatically?
It does that automatically.
Okay. And are you following any kind of prompts here?
No, this is freehanding.
Okay, so what you want to do is you just want to make sure that you stay on the row, right?
Yeah, just to make sure you don't run over any crops.
And when you get to the end of the field, do you know how to turn this baby?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are we almost there?
Not quite.
No? So does it work by GPS as well?
No, this one does not work with GPS.
You got to know how to steer this one.
Yeah,
That's the biggest challenge, huh?
yeah, definitely.
Does it tell you if you're destroying any crops? Or do you just
At
see
the
it?
end of this, it will give you a score on how well you did.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you even know what crop we're spraying? What are we spraying here?
It looks like, I'm not sure what this is.
It doesn't look like beans or corn.
No.
Do you expect you'll ever drive one of these?
I'm hoping to.
Yeah, you're hoping
I still
to.
I gotta go get my license for it soon.
Okay. Well, thanks for showing this to us, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Bill, there are 3 active learning, are they labs?
Yes.
Is that what you call them? Take me in one, will you?
Sure. One of the themes that is consistent throughout the building is flexibility. And so these classrooms can be configured for wherever we need them to be that day. So right now this classroom is set up in a lab environment. And so it's designed for an animal science and anatomy lab. And so these students, one of the things the gift has allowed us to do is purchase these models. They're not real cheap,
Yeah.
but it allows students to get their hands on when we're talking about anatomy, for example, of a hog. And so looking at pictures is one thing, but when you can talk about it and see, all right, here's the loin. And when, like in a judging class, when Mr. Beckmeyer, my coach, is talking to him, and we talk about the concept of back fat and why that really matters. Well, now they can see it here, okay, in this environment. Internal anatomy. You know, a lot of our students are going to be interested in careers in animal science. You know, it's popular. They raise livestock on their own as young people on their farm, perhaps, and so they want to do something related to it. Well, we want them to understand the basics of it, and this is one way we can do that.
And what is she doing now? She's got some kind of a program up on the
so the
monitor
machine, the models that we're working with also come from this. RealityWorks is the name of the company, but they also have software that comes along with it. So it's got lessons that are ready, and it ties in. So it can everything from having the students, you know, learn to identify where the cuts are on the carcass, or doing an anatomy lesson how to reassemble this, because it's kind of a puzzle to put these back together.
And these two, what are they working on over
They're
here?
looking at digestive systems of a cow, and it'd be the same whether it's beef or a dairy cow. And for example, the girls have that's the stomach. You know, cows are ruminants, and they have that 4-part stomach. And we'll talk about that in class and the importance of it. But now you can see it, and we can identify the different compartments and talk and really understand what their function is. Okay.
And how many animals will we be able to study through this system? I mean, you got
we talk in our classes, for example, we'll cover all the meat animals plus horses. So beef, swine, sheep, goats, and then horses. They also make models for poultry. The poultry industry in Illinois is not that large. It moved south with I won't say climate change. It moved south to avoid paying for heating in the wintertime. So Arkansas and the Carolinas. But we do have some students who are raising small-scale poultry, so we'll probably include that too going forward.
So you got 3 labs like this. Are there other labs?
There are, definitely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got some cool ones to show you.
Okay.
And this is the technology arena.
I like that arena.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that. In fact, it kind of looks like a sports bar. But
yeah, the 4 screens hanging from the ceiling. One of our staff members on campus found that idea for us, and so we call that the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So we took a basic computer lab and decided what can we do to make it the most flexible and the most useful. So these stations are designed for our landscape design program, for example. They can teach the old-fashioned pen and paper design on these tilted tables. And once they've mastered that in their second class, they're going to learn how to use CAD, or computer-aided drafting, and do landscape design electronically.
And they can also can this be sent to the other monitors?
We can put this up on all 4 of the screens, so everybody else in the class can see it. So for class discussion, for the instructor
so
to
this
see
student's
something.
working on this particular project. He or she decides to go ahead and fill in these, and then they want to share it.
Right.
And it can be shared, you can see it from every direction.
Exactly.
And you can have as many as, I think, 18 students working in here at the same time.
Right. And then and we do have a plotter, so when students, if they print their work, we can hang them on these whiteboards you see over here, and then this wall behind me, that's magnetic paint. And so we can put these traditional drawings up there and keep them for future reference.
Okay, now you're the instructor, and you're probably in the middle here somewhere, right?
They can move around. Their keyboard floats, but what we see right here, this is a document camera above us. And so if I bring in a design, for example, that was done in pen and paper, and I want to show it to the students and explain a concept or identify a part, they can see it. This table we're standing in front of is electric, raise and lower. That's got autofocus in it.
Wow.
We could use it for another class, in soils, for example. If I wanted to bring it in and really point out something like detailed, like structure, I can set it in here.
Yeah.
We'll use this room for some other classes as well.
You kind of have to be a tech whiz just to be a teacher in here, because there's a lot going on, isn't there?
There's been a lot of training going on to get us ready to learn how to use this building appropriately.
Yeah. It looks like you could do almost anything in here. I mean, you really could adapt it very, very widely, couldn't you?
Yeah, and I think once the people on campus and the other departments, or at least in our program, natural and agricultural sciences, see this, there's going to be some interest from some of these other instructors, because I can see a geology or a instructor in one of the sciences like that being able to use this room with their students very effectively. So this is the soils lab. And this is the room where we'll teach hands-on labs for soils and crop science. And so we've got a number of students in here today demonstrating some of the labs that they did in classes last fall. This room's designed, we got the tile floor because soils are messy.
You can make a mess in
we
here.
can make a mess, exactly.
Sweep it right up or mop it up.
Yep, so that's what we're talking about. So for example, Mackenzie here is working with a groundwater model. We talk about not only soil health, but environmental health. And so this model demonstrates if we put products on the topsoil, and we put it on either too heavily. Here in Springfield, we're all concerned about nitrates getting in Lake Springfield. And so we can see how those move down, whether it ends up in Lake Springfield, which is something we don't want to see, or does it get down into that aquifer layer?
That's what you really want to avoid, right? You don't want the aquifer.
Yeah, because if we get contaminants down there, it's very difficult to get those out. We can't just flush the system, kind of like we can do with this model. So it's a way for, once again, they can see it
To
and
be
do
able
it
to
themselves.
visualize it.
Right.
Sure, they'll remember it that
Exactly.
way. Yeah.
Taylor and Emily, they were soil students this year, and so they're working with a soil monolith. So this is a Kiama soil that was pulled, and then the classes pull these or pick them apart with probes. And so what they're looking at is evaluating soil color. So soil color tells us things about the soil as far as organic matter. It tells us drainage, and from those we can make management decisions, because that's really what we're going to. We're focusing on soils as a medium to raise plants, and we want to grow more crops. And so how can we do it the best way so that we maintain the soils and still improve yields?
Now, this you call it a monolith. Is that a core?
It's a core pulled out of the soil with a hydraulic probe, and then we lay them in these trays, and then we use little metal picks and pop them apart so that we can see the structure.
Now, is that the top?
That's the topsoil down there.
We're
on the
looking
end
at there.
where
Okay.
Emily right.
And then
so this is a timber
3
soil.
feet,
That's
yeah.
why it's fairly light. And then we can see down and through here the different structure, the drainage in the bottom of it here. So that gray color, which is really common in central Illinois, a lot of our soils are somewhat poorly drained or poorly drained.
They learn a lot from the color, don't they?
They do.
Yep.
and getting their hands on it. These students are working on some soil health, and this is a topic that 10 years ago we didn't really talk about in agriculture class, but today we do. So Sam and Alexis, this is what's called a slake test. And so we put these soil pads there, or clods, and they're suspended in water. And so what we're looking at is to see, is there a difference in how well they hold together? So the one that Alexis put in was from conventional tilled soils.
That's
So
the one on the right.
the one on our right, exactly. And years of tillage breaks those soils apart, and so they don't have the structure, they don't have the natural glues that hold them together as well. The one that Sam put in was from a no-till field, and it had cover crops, and so we get those root systems and those organic glues. It holds together better.
Yeah.
And this was really eye-opening when we were talking to not only students, but with people in the industry. And I have students bring in their own soil samples, and they can see, oh, maybe the way Grandpa did it isn't the way we ought to be doing it today.
Okay, and what's over here?
Braley's got another soil health test kit, and so what we're measuring here is carbon dioxide levels. And so we take soil samples, get them damp, put them in this jar and seal them up with that little paddle, and it's sensitive to the amount of CO2 being released. And so what we want to see is that yellowish green color. If we see a soil that shows and it stays blue, like at the top of that little card she's got there, that means that we don't have enough soil activity. There's not enough organisms in there respiring. So we want to see some yellow in this color. Maybe not 6, we don't want to be that high, but we do want to be in the 3-4 range.
Wow.
And so this brings the message home to students when we're talking about soil health. This is what we're talking about.
Okay, Bill, so this is the animal center, or the
Animal Science Lab
Animal
is the name
Science.
for it right now. It's really more than that, though. I call this the bonus room. But the idea of this space is that for whatever we need at that time, it can be. It's very flexible, like the rest of the building. So what we're looking at here, this is my animal science instructor, Craig Beckmeyer, and some of his students and members of his livestock judging team. So if he wants to do a lab where we bring in some livestock, and so the class can come down here and get their hands on it and see whatever we're talking about, whether it's conformation or reproduction. We've got some people who signed up for the fall. They're going to come in and do some demonstrations on things like animal chiropractic. We can show them here the technology behind there. That short throw, we'll show it on the screen so we can show the video and then go to the actual animals. This is something we've never had before. We're going to do this in June. We're going to have an in-service for area high school ag teachers. And so we can set up some of these things and talk about these topics and do some training with them. For our landscape program, if the weather is inclement, if it's February or March and they need to build a patio like what they've done here, or a fountain, we can bring the materials in, they can work in whatever the weather is outside. And so it'll give them a chance to get that hands-on. And so when they're going to get that job, they can tell the employer, yeah, I've built patios. Yes, I've worked with fountains. I've done irrigation. The little John Deere tractor, we use that in class. That's something else that we purchased through the gift. Students learn how to operate it and how to operate it safely, how to do safety inspections in the morning. Because a lot of them, if they're going to be in the green industries, they're going to be operating power equipment. So that's something else they're going to tell that future employer.
Cut above the simulator, by the way, too, because you have to really know how to operate that. And like I say, safety, if you've got that bucket way up high, it can be kind of a
Yes,
kind
if
of
you
a
raise that
challenge.
bucket up, your center of gravity's moved, and so the students will understand that. When we were doing this in class this past spring on some uneven ground, and they could feel it. And it's like, okay, so now lower your bucket and drive. Oh, it's a big difference. And so, and then what we're looking at here, this is a rainfall simulator, okay? And so we talk about erosion, okay? But with this device, I can show the students what's going on out in the fields depending on different tillage systems. So on the left, that corn is in what we would call conventional tillage. And so the soil's bare and it's raining. In the center, in a no-till or reduced tillage situation, you've got all that residue on the soil surface. And then on the right, for comparison, like a hay field or a grass waterway or something. And so what's going to happen is, as the soil gets saturated and it runs off the front, we'll start to see muddy water collect in these buckets. Well, we're going to see a lot more muddy water on the left.
Yes, you will.
Than we will on the right. And then the bucket's suspended underneath there. That shows us what's soaking through the profile, and that's what we want to see. We should eventually, if we came back and looked at this in half an hour, the one on the right would have a lot more water in it because it's got more holding ability. But once again, putting this in front of students really reinforces the message. And we use this in community education activities as well. Say right now we've got half an inch of rain. You know, we recently here in Springfield, we've had almost 4 inches of rain. So the students can see, you know, what's going on.
Exactly. Dr. Warren, LLCC already had a pretty good ag department.
Yes.
This adds substantially to it, doesn't it?
Well, it adds substantially. It was great, but we had very limited space. And in fact, they were spread out over 2 buildings and still not enough space. And we know in our area the employers are crying out for people skilled in that area, and we needed to grow the program. And in order to do that, we needed more space.
This is one of the very few public learning centers that was funded by private means. Tell me about the Crayers. It's named after the Crayer family. Who were they and how did this happen?
Well, Charles and Irene Crayer from Blue Mound, wonderful, wonderful couple who loved agriculture and loved education. And they had been involved in giving scholarships and were philanthropic in giving to various agencies. And so about 2012, she was interested in moving beyond a scholarship and talking with us. And very private woman, Charlie had died, and we brought her out here on Wednesday before Thanksgiving in 2012 to chat with her, to get to know her and for her to get to know us. That day, because there was no one on campus, we had a private lunch in our bistro that our students cooked, and took her around, and she just fell in love with what we were doing and seeing how far you could take things with technology and moving forward in the field. And so we began talking then. And we talked for about 5 or 6, 7 years, and she contributed a little more and wanted to do more. And as that happened, and as she saw what that could bring and what it offered for our students, she made the decision that we would get this marvelous gift.
Isn't it interesting how you never really can you think you know somebody, but you don't really know them. $7.5 million is a huge gift. Who would have thought that family had that kind of money?
Well, and it's really an $18 million gift.
Wow.
It's an $18 million gift, which includes, part of that is 300 acres in Blue Mound that we co-farm with the tenant farmer there and do some research crops, and which again expands the program with that kind of thing, to research with fertilizer and seed and those kinds of things. So it's that. It's about 15 million that's invested, and exactly,
wow.
It's amazing.
That's terrific. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
This new building, as impressive as it is just part of an ongoing gift from the Crayer family, which will provide resources to Lincoln Land's ag program for years to come. With another Illinois Story in Springfield, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.